The title of best ship can be thrown around a lot in the Star Trek universe and the fandom itself. Some people argue it's a small but powerful USS Defiant, the sleek and regal Sovereign Class USS Enterprise E, or the tough and stubborn Intrepid Class USS Voyager. Either way, today we'll be talking about the toughest, fastest, most powerful ship Starfleet ever put into service. Because surely Riker isn't bluffing, is he?
Time to pluck a pigeon. I fold.
You had nothing.
He bluffed you, Data.
Welcome to Trek Central. I'm your host Captain Jack, and let's get into it. In this Star Trek Starship breakdown, we'll be looking at the Intrepid Class Starship. Yes, this is the ship seen in Star Trek Picard's Season 1 final, with the USS Zheng-He commanded by the man himself, Captain William T. Riker. These vessels were also seen throughout the next 2 seasons of the show, complementing fleets of starships. What made this so-called ship tick? Well, let's find out. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Star Trek universe. The Intrepid Class Starship was active during the end of the 24th century and into the early 25th century in the service of Starfleet of the United Federation of Planets. By the late 24th century, Starfleet's mission had altered drastically from what it was well known for. From 2381, Starfleet's primary mission changed from exploration to the Romulan relocation effort, assisting the Romulan Star Empire in the relocation of people who would be affected by the encroaching unnatural supernova of the Romulan star. However, this Romulan relocation effort would only last for 4 years under the command of now Admiral Jean-Luc Picard. On first contact day of 2385, Mars and the Utopia Planitia shipyards would be attacked by rogue synthetics. They were hacked by a secret cabal within the Romulan secret police, the Tal Shiar, called the Jat Vash, though this fact would not become public knowledge until 2399. Because of this attack, however, and the destruction of their newly constructed ships to assist in the mass relocation effort, Starfleet would abandon its relocation mission and return to its previous mission, focusing on more defense for obvious reasons. The destruction of Utopia Planitia shipyards and the heavy loss of resources caused critical damage to Starfleet's infrastructure in terms of starship production and variation. The Intrepid Class Starship comes to a length of 630.94 meters, and its design features a common Starfleet layout of a saucer section, secondary hull, and 2 warp nacelles. The increased nacelles come in multiple variations, which we'll discuss later. Yes, I know it looks copy and paste, but stick with me. The saucer section of the Intrepid has a large forward-facing shuttle/cargo bay, which would aid in its many missions of exploring the final frontier. The saucer section also contained 2 saucer-embedded impulse engines. Along the outskirts of the saucer, besides the forward cargo bay, were phaser strips, which allowed for a reasonable arc of phaser fire. Another interesting deviation from the common Starfleet ship design was its deflector position behind a grid-like hull under the saucer section. Whether this grille was to protect the deflector from enemies or offered some sort of technological advancement is unknown. We could theorize this was designed to offer more protection, given Captain Riker's statement about how tough the Intrepid class was, specifically the USS Zheng-He. The bridge was of common Starfleet design, but featured a solitary command chair in the center and standing terminals in positions usually reserved for the helm and navigation. The bridge has a computerized transparent window view screen compared to a normal view screen on standard Starfleet ships. This bridge module deviated from other bridge designs of that era, and whether its bridge module would be replaced with a more standardized module after a 24-on refit has yet to be discovered. The interior would also be similar to those seen on other ships of the line during the turn of the 25th century. These ships had much wider corridors and was not as carpeted as ships in the mid to late 24th century. Presumably, as the ship was Starfleet's toughest ship class at the time, the ship would be equipped with an impressive complement of armaments, with phaser banks, photon and quantum torpedoes. However, we've only seen this vessel fire in fleets of other Starfleet starships. New offensive technology had been recently implemented within Starfleet ships, such as traceable payloads that meant that the impact of a weapon's fire left residual ionic energy that could be used to track their target. This helped Starfleet ships deal with cloaked enemies, particularly stellar phenomenon, which made tracking vessels harder. Whether such tech was equipped aboard the Inquiry class is unknown. Starfleet would not just have upgrades in offensive technology but also defensive. The Constitution 3 class in 2401 would have metaphasic shielding. This shielding could withstand a star's corona pressure, radiation, and energy. The current shuttle type employed by Starfleet at the time of the Inquiry class was Type 14 shuttlecraft, which were mostly used as maintenance shuttles or for the moving of dignitaries or VIPs. They were not armed, but could travel long distances at high warp speeds, and came with a docking port at the rear to access smaller vessels. The Inquiry class could have a complement of other shuttles, maybe even runabouts, but this is not known nor confirmed at this point in time. While the Inquiry class's appearance in Star Trek Picard may look like all the ships are the same, sparking many comments online, the ships in the season finale of Season 1 are different variations of each other. The three main variants of the Inquiry class are the Varian Fry, the Tucson, and the Maui. As we can see from the examples on screen right now, each design variant only has minor differences in the placement of a starship's nacelles and other minor details. For example, the USS Zheng-He is a Tucson variant of the Inquiry class, while the other ships appearing in Riker's fleet are a mixture of all three, making up a very tough squadron of ships. Look, we are here with you, it does all look like a copy-paste class, and sadly you can't really notice the many sort of differences on the actual ships, so yeah. Now however, regarding variants, the ship class would be refit by the year of 2401. The whole placing would be changed to fit the new hulls of the 25th century. The angle of the nacelles would be altered, and the secondary hull would also have more contouring, adding extra space underneath to remove this flat underside. The 2401 version looked to have 3 different shuttle bay locations. The forward large cargo and shuttle bay located at the fore of the saucer section, an aft shuttle bay which very much resembled a Lunar class shuttle bay or Constitution class shuttle bay with its domed bay doors, and the Inquiry also looked to have a shuttle/cargo lift on top of its saucer section, similar to the Sagan class starship. However, its deflector was the biggest change in the 2401 version of the Inquiry class. The grate, or rather grille, in front of the deflector would be removed, and the Inquiry class would get a brand new deflector which made the vessel more in line with what you'd expect from a deflector section on a Starfleet ship. Do you like the content Trek Central produces on Star Trek starships and the Star Trek universe? Want to hear more of myself and Lieutenant Commander Adam talking about why the USS Defiant is the best starship around? Then consider supporting the Trek Central channel and becoming a YouTube member. Hit that join button below to learn more about getting involved. Thanks everyone. Let's talk about the lore of the Inquiry class. A fleet of Inquiry class starships arrived at the planet of Gulion 4, also known as Capelius, in 2399, answering the distress call of now retired Starfleet Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, and they came into contact with a Tel Shiar fleet, who was aiming to wipe out a colony of synthetics on the planet's surface. The Federation fleet was under the command of acting Captain William T. Riker, who came out of retirement due to being in active reserve to command the flagship of the fleet, the USS Zheng-He. The Zheng-He was named after a famous Chinese fleet admiral and explorer. As a quick note, Captain Riker pronounced the starship name as Zheng-He, while others pronounced the name as Zheng-Ho. The Tel Shiar fleet was under the command of General Nadar, who had previously been an undercover operative within Starfleet serving as Director of Starfleet Security under the alias of Commodore O, since at least the year of 2390. Though we do know she was undercover in Starfleet longer before that. This was similar to Section 31 having an undercover operative as the chairman of the Tel Shiar during the Dominion War. Now, tensions may have flared. Still, conflict in the form of an all-out battle was avoided, and both the Tel Shiar fleet and the Federation fleet were able to avoid conflict and retreat to their respective territory, leaving Gulion 4 as a protectorate under the United Federation of Planets. 2 years later, the Inquiry class received refits on their secondary hulls to provide updated deflectors. In 2401, 5 Inquiry class starships would join a Starfleet armada assembled to confront the Singularity, a unique Borg ship that had emerged from a spatial anomaly. These 5 ships would be the USS Magellan, the USS Nathan Hale, USS Rushdown, USS Shackleton, and the former command of acting Captain William T. Riker, the USS Zheng-He. The Singularity would beam a Borg Queen aboard the Sagan class USS Stargazer to assimilate the ship, which was vulnerable due to the new technology the Sagan class utilised but was derived from Borg technology via the artifact, an abandoned Borg cube turned research station. the Queen would not only try to assimilate and take control of the Sagan-class USS Stargazer, but the rest of the ships in the Armada, which included the Intrepid-class vessels. However, after some Q-related temporal hijinks, an understanding was made between Admiral Jean-Luc Picard and the Borg Queen, who turned out to be the hybrid of a cyberneticist Dr. Agnes Jurati and Borg Queen from an alternate timeline. Confusing, I know, watch our videos on Season 2. After this understanding was reached, the Armada would join the Singularity Borg ship in a coordinated effort to extend their shields to deflect a massive energy shunt from a forming transwarp conduit. This would not be the last time the Intrepid-class ships were taken control of by the Borg. Later that year, 22 Intrepid-class starships would take part in fleet maneuvers for the Frontier Day ceremony. This time, the 250th anniversary of Enterprise NX-01's first voyage. However, thanks to a plot masterminded by the Borg Queen of the Borg Collective, Frontier Day 2401 did not go well. Working with rogue faction of changelings, the Borg Queen orchestrated a plan to infect all Starfleet officers under the age of 25 with organic Borg receivers into their brains. This would activate thanks to the organic transceiver in the brain of Jack Crusher, the unknown offspring of Jean-Luc Picard and Beverly Crusher, and, more importantly, Locutus of Borg. The Starfleet officers under the age of 25 were placed under the influence of the Borg and would take command of a fleet of starships, including the 22 Intrepid-class starships. Luckily, this plot was thwarted by the joint efforts of the USS Titan A, under the command of then Commander 7 of 9 and Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, and his Enterprise crew aboard the hobby reconstruction of the Enterprise D by Commodore Geordi LaForge. How many of the Intrepid-class starships were taken over by the Borg or destroyed by Commandeer ships is unknown. Until we get more stories in the 20th century, that is currently all we know about the active Intrepid-class starships. However, what about its storied history behind the scenes? The Intrepid class was designed by notable Trek starship designer John Eaves, who based the design off some earlier designs he created while working on the Star Trek Online video game in 2006 by Perpetual Entertainment before the license went to Cryptic Studios. The script for Season 1 of Star Trek Picard required a background Starfleet ship for episodes 6 or 7, and required a ship with a large front cargo bay, possibly to house the La Serena for some unknown reason. Whatever the reason, the script was changed, and it was not included in those earlier episodes. The script for the final required a Starfleet ship, and Eve sent over his designs. The Intrepid class was picked out from the designs. 2 physical variants were created, and those were given 2 colour variations. An alternate design of the Intrepid class, called the Col Tissot class, was similar to the Intrepid class but had cutouts in the ship's hull which gave it a unique look. The ship design is also a reuse of an early design for Star Trek Online from John Eaves, seen in some concept art along with design that would eventually become the Inquiry class. The bridge of the Inquiry was a set redress of the USS Discovery, as Jonathan Frakes would have been working on Star Trek Discovery Season 3 at the time of filming for the final episode of Star Trek Picard's first season. Originally, the Inquiry class was identified by Star Trek Picard Season 1 showrunner, Michael Chabon, as the Heavy Cruiser Curiosity class starship. Still, he later amended the classification to the Inquiry class. While the Zheng-He remained the Inquiry class, the Curiosity class would be switched to the Federation Heavy Cruiser USS Ibn Majid, NCC 75710. One of the common complaints and online opinions about the Inquiry class is that it's essentially a copy-paste starship. This is evident in the Star Trek Picard Season 1 final, when we see all multiple versions of the Inquiry class ship. While there are other variations of the ship, they're not drastically different for us to tell the actual difference. Let's be honest, it's not like the fleets we saw in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, which included multiple different starship variants, or even the Battle of Sector 001. The creators behind the show would hear this issue. VFX artist Brian Totsky, who after Season 1 of Picard would come to work officially for CBS and not just as a VFX vendor, would say, "A side goal of coming aboard Trek proper as a supervisor from a vendor was to never Zheng-He it ever again." The Inquiry class would also be updated for the 2nd and 3rd seasons now that the visual effects artists had time to produce a ship they were proud of. They would actually complete disregard the original model and utilise the Star Trek Online model created by Tobias Richer. This model would then have further modifications made, with a lightened hull, a contoured secondary hull, a different shape of the nacelles, and a proper main deflector dish. Dave Blass, production designer from Season 2 of Picard onwards, would also adopt this philosophy of never Zheng-Heing it again. He would start relationships with a team at Cryptic Studios to use some of their assets in the upcoming 2 seasons. These would help to bolster a fleet by using pre-existing assets of Star Trek starships, and scaling them up for on-screen use without having to make them from total scratch. These would be the Ross class, Reliant class, Gagarin class, and Sutherland class. Star Trek Picard Season 2 and 3 would also see ship designer Bill Krause join the team. First with ship models of the Stargazer Ready Room to the Dudesut class USS Intrepid and the Constitution 3 class USS Titan A turned Enterprise G. Well, what do you think of the Inquiry class starship? Do you think it sits in Star Trek Starship ranks as one of the toughest starships, or is it just a failed copy and paste class? Let us know in the comment section below, because as always, if you're talking Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. If you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.